Hello everybody. So making this video feels pretty good today. Title of the video, Proxies Can't Crash Forever. I'm gonna give some updates on strategy, Mara, and CleanSpark. I could have picked Riot. I could have picked other stocks. The sector is rebounding as a whole today. Hence the topic of the video, it can't crash forever. Because last week was a bunch of pain. Today is a bunch of gains, and so we rejoice. Let's begin with MSTR. I rejoice with the MSTR rebound today. Okay, sure, not quite 1.5 Bitcoin, but still almost 1% up higher than Bitcoin in sell for the day. Slight underperformance over the past 5 days, still about 3% of underperformance over the past 5 days. It's okay. We still have some MNAV compression. It's okay. In my view, the rate of compression is nothing like it was in early September. Today we did beat BTC today. We beat BTC today. And that's in line with the expectations of how MSTR should behave. I want to say a few things. Of course, the next overhang, the next leg up in crypto is government shutdown. If you look at the odds, looks like there's going to be a government shutdown. And the question is it going to last 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours? The longer the hours, the bigger the crash, maybe, essentially. Or maybe they'll do a last-minute deal. It seems to be, complicated negotiation, kind of tit for tat. And anyways, it's almost always a nothing burger, these government shutdowns. Like, I think the only meaningful one was under Obama back more than 10 years ago, where they had to furlough workers. All of the other ones, they've always resolved it. I think it's going to be a headline, though. And the news is going to make it a headline because they want the clicks and they want to play the ads. But, I don't think it's going to be doing much for Bitcoin. Bitcoin entering a good seasonal moment, right? October is a great month for Bitcoin. Usually, like I said, MNAV kind of compressing still. I'll say a few things about the MNAV in a sec. Before I do, Saylor dropped an hour ago. He dropped this Bloomberg interview. Feel free to go ahead and watch it. The only new data on this is that, he's saying a stretch instrument is going to happen in Europe and it's going to happen in Japan and a bunch of other markets. And I know in my view, my expectation is that there's going to be some sort of a European instrument. And that's based on the conference that he had with the CEO of a blockchain group, right? Alexandre Lézé. He had a interview with him saying, they're working on it. So I don't know. I think we could get a European instrument from Saylor. I think so. I kind of think so. I don't know. I don't really know how it works. I know he has operations in Poland, right, through strategy. I know they have a big division in Poland. Poland is in the EU, of course. So I don't really know what's going on, but that's not the first time that he hints at a preferred instrument in Europe. And I think that could be the next move coming from strategy. He also hinted at, the math of the preferred. You can see the way Saylor speaks. Saylor has moved on to the preferred. I think he is not wanting to do the common ATM anymore. He wants to do the preferred. He just happened to maybe have been 1 quarter early. He launched that in August. Maybe he should have launched that pivot in October, maybe. That's kind of the way I think about it. He might have been a little early. This guy has been early a lot on a lot of things, and so he may be early on that as well. So he pointed out that, of course, and this makes people uneasy. Understanding perpetual debt, it makes us uneasy because they haven't been around for a few hundred years, right? They used to be around back in the early days of colonies, and the Netherlands, for example, was big on them. You still have Harvard, who has debt from the Netherlands from 400 years ago, but we haven't really seen perpetual debt in a while, so people are uneasy with that. But with perpetual debt, you never need to pay back the principal. You don't need to pay back the principal. So even when he issues, for example, Stride at $100 par value, that par value is meaningless because Stride never comes due as long as you pay the yield. Stride never comes due as long as you pay the yield. Of course, they're gonna issue not that much Stride, like 4.2 billion, right? It's a smaller ATM compared to the other ATMs. But the point is, how does this work? Is he get the cash today, right? Today he sells a unit of Stride, like he did last week. He gets $79 of cash today. That $79 is given to you in perpetuity. The principal never gets repaid, but in exchange of, say, getting that $79, Saylor must then pay out $10, and if you divide 79 by 10, you get the yield, the effective yield of 12.6%, but he must pay out $10 in perpetuity. And what's the bet on that, right? The bet, that's the torque, that's the BTC torque, that's the arbitrage. Saylor believes for the next 21 years, Bitcoin is going to earn 29% ARR, and that's conservative, by the way, of course, because Bitcoin has earned much more than that over the first 15 years of its life. But he estimates it's going to be 29% based on the Bitcoin 2024 model. So $79, you get it today, and then you make 29%. This is simple math, of course, because it compounds, right? It's going to compound over time. But in year one, what happens? You made 29% of 79, you made $22.91 in year one, and you have to pay $10. You have to pay $10. So the BTC gain after year one is $12.91. And of course, this delta increases over time because you compound the arbitraged part of the delta between the yield paid out and the yield made on Bitcoin. You arbitrage and you compound that over the years. And so that's why you had these beautiful charts showing how this looks over a long time period. People may be uncomfortable understanding perpetual debt because they don't have a good understanding of fiat, and they don't understand what even Charlie Munger understood, which is that over 100 years, the fiat is going to zero. 99% of the value of the fiat will be gone over a 100-year period. This is how it works. I really recommend you watch this old documentary where they show Harvard, who made a ceremony, and Harvard was paying their interest to the state of the Netherlands, and the interest was something like pennies. They were paying pennies in interest on debt that was issued 400 years ago. These debts are making a comeback. Saylor is bringing back this perpetual arbitrage, but I expect this still to be pretty uneasy for a lot of investors to understand. Anyways, moving on to another stock. Mara, let's talk about Mara today. Like I said, all of the proxies are on fire right now. Well, not all. Some of them are okay, but most of them are on fire right now. Mara, of course, has been too cheap for too long. It has been ridiculous. It has been entirely ridiculous. People don't like the CEO. People don't like this, don't like that anyways. They don't like that they have old miners. They don't like the CEO. They don't like... there was a little spam issue at one point. I'm sure he's not going to do that again. But anyways, it's been ridiculous. The stock has been sold off like crazy. It was 1x MNAV on Friday. Now it's 1.15 MNAV. So in a single day, you moved the MNAV by 15%. 1.15 MNAV, we're at a 1x on Friday. Stock was up nearly 16% today. Nearly 16% today. Mara, I summed it up. The last time I covered Mara, a few weeks ago, buy for the Bitcoin, stay for the free stuff. Mara, buy for the Bitcoin, stay for the free stuff. Because if you buy at 1x MNAV, right, the downside is going to be pretty limited. I mean, even Semler is trading maybe at a 10% discount, but that's max. So the downside is limited. The upside is what? The upside is this. The upside is the gigawatt, the access to the power that they have up to 1.7 after they're done fully developing it, 1.7 gigawatt of access. They'll be able to monetize that, maybe with joint ventures, maybe with their own facilities, maybe with co-hosted facilities, but they have access to a lot of power. They acquired that power when it was cheap. They acquired that power during the Valley of Despair of 21, 22, and then before that, while AI was not even on anyone's radar. The cost of power has increased a lot, and these miners got their contracts a long time ago. And so that's why they're all trying to pivot or sell their power to AI HPC players out there. And, Mara, of course, gets a lot of FUD. So I said the FUD about the CEO. I said the FUD about the old miners. as I researched a little bit Mara briefly on Twitter before recording this video, the biggest FUD that still exists on Mara is the whole dilution thing, because they hold all their Bitcoin. To me, it's a big plus that they hold all their Bitcoin. I love it very much. But most folks still don't understand that even if you dilute at a 1x MNAV or 1.1x MNAV, it's not the same as doing that if you're similar scientific. If you're similar scientific and you do it at 0.8, no investment advice, no financial advice, but I don't like it because that's not accretive in my view, right? But if Mara dilutes even at a 1x, it is accretive because they're not buying the Bitcoin in the open market. They are mining it for, it's actually 50% to 30% off, right? Up to, let's call it 40% off, right? They're mining these Bitcoins for 60, 70, 80K, something like that, while Bitcoin is trading at 114 right now, right? And of course, people will tell me, oh, that's not true. They're actually mining the Bitcoin at 180, but that's because folks don't have a basic understanding of amortization and how accounting works. Like, economic value of accounting is not the same as actual financial value, actual economic value. It's accounting value versus economic value. There's no such thing as economic value of accounting. I misspoke here. But it's like they're getting the Bitcoin for cheap. And so how you pay that electricity bill is important, and you can dilute if you have access to cheaper Bitcoin. You can dilute. Dilution is accretive. Even in the case of Mara trading at 1.15 MNAV, dilution is accretive because they mine the Bitcoin cheap. They don't go buy it on the open market, right? If Sailor did it at 0.98 MNAV, that would be bad. It's different for a miner. By the way, I know Sailor may not be too fond on that, but maybe Sailor might want to look at some of these miners, right? And just get the Bitcoin, spin out the energy assets, just keep the Bitcoin, sell the miners to a lot of mining nations, emerging nations. These miners stay valuable for a long time. Sell the transformers. Those transformers are very valuable right now. Bitcoin miners have a lot of transformers. The transformers don't depreciate like the Bitcoin miners in price. They don't depreciate in price. Anyways, moving on to CleanSpark really quickly. CleanSpark, similar story. FUD victim as well. CleanSpark, back in the day, they had the dilution FUD, same thing. People didn't understand the value of CleanSpark diluted, and they didn't get that at frankly, a really nice MNAV. They still didn't get it. CEO caved on CleanSpark. The CEO caved, and we're like, okay, we're going to sell some of the Bitcoin. So unfortunately, in my view, they're selling for some of their Bitcoin to pay for the electric bill, to mine the Bitcoin. You see, CleanSpark is mining their Bitcoin at much cheaper than even Mara. The cost to mine a Bitcoin at CleanSpark is $44,000, right? Bitcoin is worth $115. So this is a highly profitable company. They're selling some of their monthly mined Bitcoin to pay for that electric bill. But Mara has a lot going for it, and the market is now noticing. In fact, 4 weeks ago exactly, I made this video. 4 weeks ago exactly, Mara was trading at $9.47. So Mara is up roughly 60% since my video 4 weeks ago on Mara. And, I asked, will it rebound? Is it just dead money? Of course, I'm kind of a hyperbole, so I said, of course it will rebound because it's just too cheap. The market can't ignore something that's cheap. And then we got a lot of good news. After that video, we got lucky. We got a lot of good news. A lot of people are very excited about the new CEO. The management have gotten a lot of criticism. For some reason, the internet is very rough with management all the time. They had gotten criticism on the private jets, even though one private jet. I don't know why I said jets. They only had one, but they needed that, right, to move the staff because we're in small cities. But the whole internet got wild. Sometimes I wonder if the internet is powered by jealousy or something like that. Anyways, the point is, the market to me is starting to value CleanSpark as an AI story. My last video, I was showing you this chart. Kind of a silly thing that I did, and I look at Tennessee, and I looked at Atlanta, and I looked at their biggest data center, and how close they are to Memphis, Tennessee, and how close they are to Atlanta. Memphis, Tennessee, of course, being where Colossus is from OpenAI, right? Colossus, the biggest data center, the biggest GPU data center operated by Elon Musk, is in Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis, Tennessee is a very interesting spot in the United States from where it intersects with the population center. It's actually actually, it's not the geographical center, but from a logistical standpoint and like a population nerve centers, it's actually like kind of right in the middle. Like if you look at the northeast of the US, if you look at Texas, if you look at Florida, if you look at Chicago, the positioning is really, really good of Memphis, Tennessee. So I was like, okay, well, that's pretty valuable because they're not that far. It's not that far for drive an hour-ish. And same for their near Atlanta data center, very close. And big contracts. So I think these are very valuable now. I think these will be interesting. These will be very valuable. By the way, when I made that statement about Riot, I had made that statement about Riot on their Corsicana site, Corsicana, Texas. They had a big site, and I had said, oh, well, Riot's going to be able to monetize that better than Iron. And people made fun of me in the comments section. Looks like they halted the building of another Bitcoin mining operation at Corsicana. So maybe Riot is going to announce a deal for their Corsicana site. I wouldn't be surprised if CleanSpark were able to monetize their not too far from Memphis site or they're not too far from Atlanta site. I wouldn't be surprised. And of course, these are very big city. I mean, Atlanta much bigger than Memphis, of course. But Memphis being in a very interesting location, kind of right at the center, which is really good for a data center. Point is, we're moving forward with the data center story. If you look at the news that was yesterday, no, that was today. I can't remember. Anyways, I can't copy the date. But they have a $100 million Bitcoin back credit now with 2 Prime. And so they're trying to not dilute. They don't want to dilute because the market doesn't understand selling the shares. And they don't want to sell the Bitcoin because, of course, they believe in Bitcoin. And so what do? They borrow a little bit against their Bitcoin. That's perfectly fine with me. They have such a big Bitcoin stack that it's not that big of a problem. They have well over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. My 1.45 billion, right? So in my view, not that risky of a move. Market drops whenever they hear that, whatever. The point is, these are 2 interesting tweets, recent tweets from the CEO. This is a GIF from a face melting. The face is melting. Someone's face is melting on that GIF. And that's what the CEO tweeted. A shareholder in a company that has, great data centers, 33 of them, with a lot of power, and they are strategically located around the country, right? I just said that. And they also own 13,000 Bitcoin, and they have very high margins. Yeah, well over 50%, right? 44,000 cost to mine, Bitcoin 114,000. So the CEO tweets that. Maybe that's a little bullish. And then the CEO tweets this too, and it says, I can confirm that the demand for power, land, and infrastructure is off the charts. How do you quantify that? I don't know what it is, but it's off the charts. Of course, nothing like the scoop on massive news that really, kind of made me mad the other day. You may remember that people hyping up nothing, hyping up no news whatsoever. So thank you, Matthew Schultz, for not hyping up anything. And I do like your face melting GIF because I do own quite a bit of CleanSpark. So I do like that face melting gift. Anyways, like I said, sector as a whole was up. I could have talked about Riot today. I didn't. I could have talked about other stocks today. I didn't. To me, the good proxy for this whole sector is the Bitwise Bitcoin Standard Corporation's ETF. They have Coinbase in there. They have Strategy in there. They have Metaplanet in there. They have the miners in there. It's a good proxy. I like to use that, as the health of the sector. And today it was up nearly 6%, which means the sector is up. We're bouncing back, and we are loving it. So this was not investment advice, not financial advice. This is only entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Follow me on Patreon. Follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.